Okay, the next step in installing the GT4 suspension is the Kenny Brown jacking rails. For the jacking rails, weld to the car along the pinch weld, which does a number of things. Number one, it gives you a positive place to put a jack anywhere along the jacking rails, and also for those working at home in their garage, it's a great place to put jack stands. Okay, a couple of things before you weld in your jacking rail is first, any place along the chassis where there's undercoat or a lot of paint, you're going to want to grind that off so you have a good welding surface. The other thing is the factory molding runs right up against the pinch weld where we're going to be welding. Factory molding is plastic, and hot welding means fire, and you don't want to fire. So what our guys do, they just take a very simple doorstop made out of wood and wedge it between the molding and the pinch weld, so when there's welding, there's no chance of fire and you have a good day. Another thing that's really important when installing the matrix system is making sure the car is as level as possible. What we've done, because we're working with a two-post hoist, we're using a high stand to support the rear end, so the weight of the rear end isn't pulling the back of the car down. This is very important because once everything's welded in place, that's how the car is going to be, because it becomes very rigid. Now we're ready to weld in the jacking rails. As you can see, the surface has already been prepped for the spots we're going to weld in. And something else that's very important is we've disconnected the battery. On late model cars with computers, it's very important that you disconnect the battery before you start welding. The other thing is we don't want to run a continual bead because that's too much heat. We're just going to do some what we call stitch welds, which are little 1-inch welds on top and bottom alternating. Very strong without putting a lot of heat into the chassis. Now that the jacking rails are installed, the next step is the matrix brace. What we do is we'll hold the matrix brace in place, and on the driver's side, the late model Mustangs, there is some plastic shielding that needs to be trimmed out for a good fit. Once we're holding it up in place, the next thing would be to trim the tubes. Because every car is different, we actually make the matrix brakes too long, so it's a trim to fit, so it's a perfect fit on every car. Okay, we've got the matrix brace cut to length and installed, and now we're ready to weld it in. And something for those people that don't know much about welding, the best way to do it is with a MIG welder. And it's simple enough welding that even if you had one of the little 110 at home MIG welders, you could do it at home by yourself in the garage. It's not a problem. It's easy to do. Okay, the last step in installing the matrix system is to protect the welds that we've done. Every place that we've welded is exposed metal. The matrix brace itself is zinc chromate plated, it's rust resistant, but bare metal will attract rust. So what we do is we just take and put a coat of rubberized undercoat on it, and it'll resist rust and it'll be good to go.